Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Danny, and together with me, we have Terence. So the purpose of today's webinar is basically there are several objectives, and one is actually to give you an idea of what AI agent is. Since we are in this field of development and research, we thought it might be a good idea to actually share our knowledge with everyone. The second thing is actually to announce several initiatives that Terence and I are launching, which I'll let Terence explain in a little bit more details. But in a nutshell, Terence and I also have a think tank. We've also co-founded a think tank based in London, where we are working with several government entities as well as private institutions to launch several educational initiatives, which we would like to actually develop it into a more thorough series of courses, where we will at the same time deliver these courses at several institutions, learning institutions in Europe as well, universities, business schools, and so on. The last is obviously, if you're interested, we are definitely, welcome you to come and discuss with us in more details. Maybe perhaps before I actually go into explaining a little bit more, I'll let Terence explain a little bit about himself, what is he doing, and also, just to explain a little bit about the format of today's webinar. It's not meant to be a presentation. It's meant to be a dialogue between Terence and myself. And obviously, we welcome you to join us into these discussions. We're definitely not going to just talk about technical. We will discuss a little bit about the implications, the use cases, as well as how is it going to be like in the future. Terence.
Hey, thank you very much, Danny. Hello, everyone. Good. I think I know some of you. For those of you whom I don't know, hello and welcome. My name is Terence. I'm a professor at Howard International Business School, but I have been working with Danny for the longest time, or actually, Danny has been taking care of me for the longest time. I think that is the a more proper description. Together with him and others, we co-founded Nexus FrontierTech. And as Danny was saying, we are now coming up with a new initiative called the Chart Think Tank. As Danny said also, we would like to actually do a number of things. I think just to give the think tank 1 minute of airtime. It is it is about trying to come up with research reports, come up with educations, but on different aspects, not just on AI. Naturally, the initial direction was AI, but we decided that we could actually afford to go a little bit go beyond that. Looking at beyond the governance issues, looking at beyond how AI is actually used in in the corporate setting. I think what's more important is the fact that there is a very, very under discussed type a topic of SMEs, AI in SMEs, which is something that I think AI agents could actually help to bring bring the new technologies to so we will come we'll talk about that. And finally, as Danny was saying, we also want to look at the different frontier techs, touching on blockchains, and even as far as much as even space economy, because one of our co-founders is also into that. So very exciting stuff. We want to also launch education programs as well. So if you're interested in anything, come and talk to us. We are basically just one LinkedIn message away. But today, it is not about us. It's not about the think tank. It is about you. So thank you very much for being here. And of course, you come here because you want to hear a little bit more about AI agents. And as Danny was saying, that this is this is not really a lecture, thankfully, for those of you who were actually my students, but rather it is almost like a dialogue. I would even say probably what we're going to do is basically being a co-host at a podcast episode on the topic of agentic AI agents. So I think this is the format we are going to take. If you've got any questions, please pop in in, I don't know, the Q&A box or the chat box. Doesn't really matter to us. Maybe the chat box so that everyone can actually read the questions. Feel free to drop them at any time, because there are two of us. It's a lot easier for us to pick up any questions that you may have along the way, and it will be easier for us, to bring these all all these questions in, when we talk to each other. Danny, over to you.
Thank you, Terence. So perhaps let me just kickstart with a basic question, 101. What is
Yeah.
AI agents? I'd like to begin with the story of, I wouldn't say story, but just a reflection over the last few years where everyone definitely has already tried Gen AI, Open AI, but you don't really see how can you actually, utilize the Gen AI and into actually real applications. And that is the reason why I'm trying to explain, the reasoning behind what is exactly this LLM and how can it actually help you from the business perspective. I'm sure you have already interacted with OpenAI's, ChatGPT. You can ask the questions and the response is a lot more thorough compared to a simple Google search response. And that is the reason why people are so excited about it. But how can we actually utilize these tools and actually to make it into something that is useful and permanent that can really help us to solve problems? And that has been the question since the beginning, where the AI researchers, or those executives inside the AI have been asking ourselves, how can we actually make it more useful for people? So to think it in that way, when you interact with a Gen AI models, you ask the questions, the response is a lot more interactive that help you to complete a better task. But think of this as a conversation between you and your colleague. And you're trying to actually complete a task. You ask questions, you delegate tasks to each other, and you're trying to complete a task. But to solve a problem, you have to solve multiple tasks repeatedly at the same quality and understand, following the SOP, standard operating procedures, so that you can actually solve an actual problem in, your company or in any process. And that is the way how, researchers or developers are starting to then try to put these processes to connect to each other and to be able to actually make it to be more consistent in order to perform a task that is within our expectations. You can't just hire someone to just sit there. You would definitely need to actually embed or blend a new stuff into your process so that everyone, does their task so that it can become a process to solve a problem. So this is the reason why we are calling them as an AI agent. You have multiple agents being responsible of different tasks within a process. And that is how, why people think of this is so potential, because if essentially you can actually build a whole process or a whole company with AI agents. So of course, without going into too futuristic, I've prepared a few slides to show you what are the different types of AI agents. Let me just.
While you're uploading the slides, right? Let me actually you just reminded. I think I'm glad that you actually started with with this aspects, because there was a study done not very long ago, and basically what it was asking was a question very simple. People have been talking about Gen AI replacing jobs, right? People are losing jobs to Gen AI. Yes, we have started to see jobs that requires proofreading, for instance, is all dropped substantially, or a basic editing of stuff substantially, all these jobs disappeared. But the question here is, why is it that we're not seeing a wider and more systematic elimination of jobs by ChatGPT? The answer, as it turned out, was this, because most of the jobs that we are doing, right? I'm sure like all of us, that what we're doing is actually very, in quotation mark, very messy. In other words, what it means is it's not just a linear process, just like that there's a start and there's a finish. It has to actually involve multiple tasks that you have to actually do in order to actually make it to complete it. And at the moment, Gen AI, like you were saying, ChatGPT, yes, they can actually take on a task that is, start to finish. You can actually do it quite easily. But when there is a need to combine multiple tasks and put it together, and like you were saying, this is not necessarily a standard operating procedure anymore. Because by definition, if you're combining different tasks, it is a varied. It's a task that has got various elements. And I believe that, AI agents, as you expect, you explained, will be able, because of the capabilities to take on all of these at the same time and work together, it is going to make a huge difference than what we have seen, by impact, from the impact of Gen AI. Over, Demi, show us the slide.
Yes. Since again, just to touch on one more point, since you touch upon the
Yep,
jobs,
yep,
I have never believed that AI will take over humans' role. Humans' jobs has always been evolving because our demands, our needs has always been evolving. And the
correct.
reason why, we need to continuously train human workers is because the demand keeps changing. We need to come up with new solutions. We need to solve problems. The
Mhm.
functionality or the role of AI agents is actually helping us to do some of these repetitive tasks or the junior
Yep,
stuff, but it still
yep,
gives human or the senior executive or those who knows how to actually change to actually perform the evolutions to actually be able to solve the problem in a better way. I will
mhm,
present late in the later part of the webinar, an iterative process of how this loop is going to become. But in the meantime,
mhm,
since I promised to actually show what is AI
yep,
agent and actually the types of AI agents. So we talk about ChatGPT. It is a one task execution job. You provide a prompt, and GPT actually provide you an answer. Although it's a very thorough answer, but it actually doesn't lead you to actually make a decision. You need to continuously make more prompts. But these prompts are very variables. It doesn't actually constitute to become a consistent, persistent process to solve a problem. That is why it is a non-agentic workflow, a normal LLM. The differentiation between just a chat GPT or an LLM is it does not really able to help you to solve a process problem. That is the reason why we've seen, you probably have heard a lot of these companies, they're just trying to deploy a chatbot into their company. How is it going
yep,
to help you to solve problems? It can't, because it doesn't blend into your process to solve the problems that you're facing. That is the definition of non-agentic workflow, where it is simply just a one-pass execution. It complete a task in one go without any iteration until or unless you actually provide new prompts. And then
yep,
it comes to the second step, which is an agentic workflow, which is a step-by-step execution. It breaks the task into stages, just like how we prepare our SOP. It is
mhm,
to a certain level automated because it can help you to actually make the decision. Again, I will show the example later. And it can actually take the actions to move on to the second steps and
mhm,
actually, to be able to use a certain tools. For example, let me just give you an example right now. I want to ask I want to ask ChatGPT to actually help me to do a plan if I like to go to London for a visit. ChatGPT can help me to draw a plan, but it can't help me to actually make any decision. If I were to actually make into an agentic workflow, I'd like to say, right, combining with my calendar, with my behavior, please help me to
correct.
draw a plan and the prompt will automatically help me to check my schedule, checking my behavior to book the right hotel, to use, let's say, hotels.com to book the hotel, to actually utilize, let's say, kayak.com to actually book my flight, to actually plan my itinerary to book certain, visiting functions. This is an agentic workflow where it is partial autonomy, where it will actually help you to execute certain tasks.
Let me add one more point there, like Danny, since you were using the example of booking a trip to London. Let's say you decided to take your son to actually come over as well, right? You are going to work very many days, but you also want to actually spend time with your son in London while in London, right? So what are the things to do? Now, traditionally, you would have to actually spend tons of time actually figuring out where can I go, what are the latest events, what are the events that are going to happen, when you are here, so is there any things that that coincides while you're here, right? These are all things that you don't have to do anymore if you were to actually use AI agents, like you're saying, because the AI agents will not just check kayak or check a hotel.com to book your accommodation. It can also actually check public holidays. What are the events happening during that time, right? Or even if you think about it, look at the weather, right? Look at the historical weather and say, okay, chances are there will be more times that there will be frequent that there is a good chance that it will be raining. Let's actually think about putting some of the activities indoors while we are giving ourselves the opportunities to actually go out, go outdoors. All of these, right? Traditionally that needs to be done. Even if you're prompting, you have to actually go back and revisit the issues by thinking about what to do next. But with the agents, in theory, this can all actually be done, taken up. The decisions, however, like Daniel was saying, rely still on you.
Yeah.
You are the one deciding what is the right thing to do, what is the right, what do you want to do? Daniel.
Exactly, exactly. I'll actually, take the opportunity to give another example as well, and which relates to the problems that we've been facing with ourselves in the last 10 years. The problem of the last 10 years is that with this break, we
Yep.
are now faced with multiple applications, hundreds of applications in our phone where, I have more than 150 applications where I don't use more than 5 every day.
Yep.
And one of the examples that I face is actually in my phone. I have at least 4 or 5 different riding apps: Uber, Rides, Bolt, FreeNows, or Lyft. And every time when I need to book a taxi, I will have to check every single app to check how fast, how cheap will they be coming, and I keep testing. So these apps are actually adding more burdens to me than before, where I just hail a taxi.
Yep.
The concept of where is next beyond from a brick to of desktop to a laptop to a mobile device to how can we actually human beings move on to the next level is that there should be some agents that is able to read my schedule when my meeting is about to finish and should know where is my next meeting, to actually know the meeting time as well as the destination, to actually automatically helping me to check several booking apps and book one for me. And by the time I walk down to the lobby, the taxi should be there to pick me up. That is the dream, or was the dream, that is starting to realize right now. And this is the by far the examples that I use the most every time when I talk to people, what is next after the mobile phone, after all these apps. So again, these are all the possibilities at the moment where well, Sam Altman, or even Elon Musk, all these people, they were saying that, the next, the reason why this agentic workflow or agentic AI is so potential is because every single SaaS company on the market right now, there is a potential challenger by the Gen AI, by agentic AI to replace them because of the example that I just explained. Now, we had even think of the next steps. more than just the agentic workflow, which is just partially autonomous, is the truly autonomous AI agent.
Yeah.
What is it? It is a fully independent AI agent that is self-initiated, self-correcting, that is fully automated. They can actually even behave on its own, decision making as well. This is not available yet. This is still in the making, in the development, but it is possible because we are all dreaming of it already. What are those? Autonomous car driving, autonomous flight taxi, robo taxi. You can't drive a robo taxi or a electric helicopter by your own. If you need to make it, available to everyone, it needs to be fully automated in order to actually to become a very professional pilot for the agent to be, and to be able to actually send you to your destination, but able to handle all the tasks, be able to face with any situation, any condition, and be able to respond. But this is still in the imagination, although there are steps are being taken to try to achieve it.
Danny, let me ask you like something. Since like we are not there yet, right? And it like we are essentially what we're doing is moving basically between from non-agentic workflow, even though we're far from seeing the maturity of this phase, right? We are gradually starting to open up the possibility of using agentic like AI agents to deal with our workflows. But would you agree with me that the most important difference between Gen AI and AI agents, and I think like this is a question that lots of people like have been asking. What is the true difference? To me, the true difference, the one biggest difference, there must be many, but there is one biggest difference between AI agents and Gen AI is the fact that with AI agents, we have to give it the go. The moment we actually offer it, give the agents the go, the agents will be able to achieve it. The agents would actually do like a whatever within their power to actually accomplish that goal. Am I right? To actually by making that statement.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have to give the instructions step by step. You can't actually, lay it out in a process.
Mm,
I mean, you just triggered me to think of another example as well. Think
mm,
of AI agent as the engine of an aeroplane,
mm,
and you have all other tools that you make it work. But AI agents is the thing that can actually make, a car to be able to fly, to become an aeroplane.
mm.
It's a very powerful tool, but you need to
Yep.
actually make it into something for a right purpose. And that is
Mm.
what we are trying to make at the moment.
I think the I think like for a lot of us, we have been talking about AI agents, but in in actual business reality, right? How far are businesses when it comes to taking on agents? What's your view? You're the one who actually deal with talk to companies, leaders day in day out. What's the reality right now?
That's a very good question. There's still a belief that in order to actually learn how to use AI, you need to become an engineer, you need to actually learn how to
Huh,
code. I would say
huh.
99% of people believe that you actually need to learn how to code to actually be able to build an AI agent. The answer
You're
is
joking.
completely wrong.
Wow.
Typically, people don't believe it, but you can actually nowadays there are just so many tools. Like I said, it's about
Yeah.
process, and AI agents
Yeah.
is simply a tool. There are many tools available to allow business people that understand the problem statement and to be able to actually build the process to just drag and drop, just like how you can build a process on Salesforce. And that is
Yeah.
the powerful of this application at the moment, where it simply allows so many normal persons that don't have to actually learn how to code and just be able to build an AI agent for themselves. You can
Yeah.
simply go onto YouTube and you find those
Yeah.
YouTubers that so many of
Yeah.
them actually just create their own personal assistants for themselves and to solve
I
their own
mean,
problem.
even if you are actually subscribing to the more, if you're basically the fee paying, the subscription of like a ChatGPT, you can already start to build like a, single agent, to achieve, accomplish a goal. So for instance, in my case, it will be building an agent to write LinkedIn posts for me, right? It's like a social media post, especially if you want to actually do one every day. So I'm very, very shocked to hear that, like when you say 95% of the public out there, and these are like business leaders, right? They still believe that you need to code. And also, even if you are like building if you want to build like a AI agent workforce, i.e., multiple agents, like you're saying, there are already tons of like interfaces, softwares, platforms out there, Relevance.ai, like Zapier. They can all allow you to actually hook up with different softwares through like APIs, and you can already start to build that. So that is like, I think individuals are okay, but what about the businesses themselves? Have you seen businesses actually deploying AI agents already, or like what's
We
the
do,
again? What's
although
the
they're still in a minority. That's why perhaps let
mm,
me just give a few examples over here. Like
okay.
for example, these are the real applications that has already been deployed or used by different businesses. For example, in the customer service area, you can actually build the support agent. I mean, what is the biggest pain point of customer service is that people hate switchbox. People hate those, just directing
Dial one,
person.
for this you need press one, for this press two.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
AI agents is starting to be able to actually to behave or respond more like a human beings to check on like the examples I explained just
Mm,
now, to be able to actually pull out different knowledge, internal and external knowledge, to be able to actually solve easy problems. This is essentially cutting down the workload of those call center by at least 60 to 80%. And that is
yeah.
the reason why you are starting to see, a lot of these call centers are being, revamped or
Mm,
change. Content creation, this is another big piece as well. You can actually, the process of creating a piece of paper, whether is it in the university creation or in a investment thesis to actually create something, or even in the banking sector to create a credit memo. The process of content creation is basically you have to absorb, you have to read a lot of materials and knowledge, you have to digest it, and then you have to basically analyze it, digest it, and then you basically create your own and to
mm,
reiterate. These
mm,
can actually be able to solved by the AI agents as well. Data analysis is another one, project management. So perhaps let me just go into a little bit on the um, actual example over here, where research assistant search papers from the internet, all different types of paper, summarize the content, compare the findings, recommending what you should be working on, and generate a report. All
mm,
this is one AI agent process that you can actually work on it. You can actually create one that fits you. The differences is actually what are the databases that you want to fit into these search
yeah.
papers? What type of
Mm,
summary that you want to do based on your behavior? What type of
mm,
findings that you want to create? So these are all different, these are all different things or customizations that fits with different companies that requires a little bit of customization to actually help them
mm.
build their AI agents. It is actually very simple, but I think it's just about the knowledge and understanding about how to do this. And we are here to actually try to help to actually, educate and to teach business people how to actually just build simple AI agents.
Earlier, you said, Danny, that when it comes to all of all these technologies, they are not there to actually get rid of us. I mean, they cannot get rid of us. I think that's what you're saying. I'm going to be a little bit more concrete. Simply because jobs are actually evolving, right? Like you're saying, new requirements, new challenges, new issues, things that machines have never seen before. How can they actually have a chance to overcome them, right? If they have never had the experience of overcoming them. And whereas humans are a lot more flexible. Now, but the fact that humans are still in the loop, and we have been talking about it for donkey's years now, and we will talk about it keep on talking about it for the next decades to come, because humans are in must actually be involved, providing the necessary oversight at each stage. In the case of AI agents, right? What are the work that humans would have to actually do, and what are the works that the agents will actually be taking on, right? Give us some ideas, how it
That's
works technically.
That's a very good question. I mean, this is my own master blueprint of an AI agent. It can
Yeah.
become a lot more complicated. But first of
Mm,
all, if you look at this process, this recurring or process, that first to define a goal and to reason it and to act on it and to remember it and to learn it and to achieve it and then to redefine the goal. This process is basically, you will see that you will require human in every part of it to actually be able to iterate, because the objective keeps expanding.
mm,
As I mentioned earlier, the objective of a company will always be expanded.
mm,
If you make $1 million this year, you want to make a $2 million next year, which means you
mm,
need to create new services or new products or
mm,
do better things. And that is the role of human being a mastermind behind these AI agents to keep
mm,
expanding it. The involvement of human is rather much more direct than a lot of people imagine, because you need to iterate
yeah.
all the time. For example, although
Right.
AI can actually act autonomously and it can remember
Mm,
as well, it can learn as
mhm,
well, but to actually to decide whether to achieve, to retry, or to actually redefine the goal, this requires actually human input
humans input.
and a very clear and measurable objectives for the AI agent to achieve. And these
Right.
are the iterations that we have to keep on changing. Um, to put it in that way, to give you a more structured imaginations of how these agents is going to be, it is not just one agent that you are building. Essentially, you are building one agent after a human beings or a position, which will help the human beings to free up and do better to redefine
Mm,
the agent. That will essentially either allow you to reduce your cost by half or to
yeah.
expand your capabilities or
Capabilities.
capacity.
Mm,
So that is a very clear KPI or ROI of this investment at the moment. It is
mm.
almost immediate.
Funny, I mean, one thing that I always talk about in class, right? When it comes to AI, is this, every single company, regardless of which one you talk to them, the one thing that matters the most is always ROI, right? And I think I always said, yes, in the pursuit of ROI, lots of people, companies believe that this will involve firing people, right? And we talk about it already, we have not seen massive elimination of jobs. However, the ROI, I think, will be like you were saying, right? From the very beginning of machine learning, the ROI actually comes from the future savings. The fact that, you can actually have the same number of people, but doing a lot more than before, that is the savings. That is the value that one would be able to create for themselves. Companies will be able to create for themselves. The like you know if I think like this also like is very important in the sense that because like traditionally for any companies, like if we go back to our early days when it comes to implementing like machine learnings into companies, right? It requires a lot of work. You need to touch the IT stack. You do need to have the coding, like experience, the software engineering experience, and the knowledge in order to do like the different things, right? But with AI agents, that one can individually can, as long as they know how to actually like put it together using the different platforms, you can actually put it into use. What do you think would be the
Yes,
impact to
yes.
the small
Well,
medium-sized enterprises? What do you
rather
think?
than impact, maybe let me give you the example. In today's
Mm,
startup world, it used to
yeah,
be you have to raise at least, $500,000 to $1 million to
yeah,
actually build an MVP and then
yeah,
to actually launch it. In
mhm,
today's AI agents world, with just one person, you can actually build an app and launch it to
yeah,
the market in less than $5,000, for example.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is already happening.
yes,
Um, and I think the myth of AI agents or this AI agentic workflow is that number one, you have to be technical, which is a
yeah,
myth. You don't have to be technical. You can actually learn it and you can actually do it yourself. The second is that you need a lot of investment to actually make it happen, which is
right,
totally wrong. Rather,
yeah,
the investment into building an AI agent workflow or AI solutions, the cost has reduced drastically.
mm,
Although there will be some other costs as well, but just
yeah.
purely the point of technical investment into AI. The
Or
third
at
is
least it's
that
at least it's doable, right? Because
it
previously in
is
machine learning,
doable.
you and I cannot actually implement any machine learning in any way in our lives, right? But
It
now
is definitely
it is
doable.
possible, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The third is um that you need to have a very long and very thorough planning in order to actually implement AI. The
mm,
the the idea is wrong that you need, to plan for a year and then you actually don't only build the whole system out. The
right,
waterfall of implementation is no longer valid. Like I explained
right,
this graph, the way is actually just try to build something to implement it and then improve it while because the cost is low and the speed is quick. And you can actually just
yes,
build something to test and improve it with the
yeah,
person or with that role and to
right,
actually iterate and improve it along the cycle. So the cost
interesting.
of actually implementing the AI and the time
Uh,
that it requires has reduced drastically. That's the reason why a startup today from those VCs, the expectation is that you don't need $500,000 anymore. You just need maybe
five
$5,000
thousand,
to
yeah,
launch an MVP or maybe to do it better, maybe exaggerating, maybe 20, $50,000.
yeah.
But it
But
is
it is yeah, yeah, but
cost.
it is compared to before, right? Like where you need
Exactly.
and I think this will also change the dynamics of investment too, right? Whereas before, there's no way you can actually start any work and clients will not buy anything if you like had you not been able to secure 500,000 like of seed money, right? Because they want to see that you have the money, you'll be sticking around for a while, therefore you'll be able to actually sell, implement what they actually buy, right? Now all of a sudden, as long as they can see that the MVP can actually benefit from them, the risk of trying it out is also rather low, and more importantly, like at a minimal cost. Right, I think it's going to change the dynamics, like big time. And this is not something that I have actually come across very frequently, I must admit. In
Absolutely.
reading about the agentic AI. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Great, great.
Okay.
Great. Yeah,
Okay.
we are mindful of the time.
Yep.
We'd like to give some time for the audience to actually ask questions as well. But before that, I think let me just give you a little bit of takeaway. And
Yep.
the objective of this is that AI is actually evolving from static to an autonomous agent now. It is
Yep.
not going to be static all the time, and you can actually make it more and more autonomous. You can actually combine goals, tools, memories, and learning all into one. That means you're not going to plan it in a big blueprint. You actually have to do something to evolve from that.
Yep.
There are different agents that serves different purposes. because there are different roles. So you have to build multiple types of agents. And the quality of the AI agents or models nowadays, it allows contextual understanding, which means, you are not treating it just merely as a tool. You are able to actually work with it, to interact with it, to learn, to continuously learn and improve in the evolving environment. And the future really lies in the collaborative AI agent ecosystem rather than just one. It's multi-agents, multi-LLM, and to work together with human beings in order to achieve bigger tasks. So I think I'll let Terence to do one more takeaway as well. But one of the key things that we like to actually achieve in this is today's is just a very simple conversations between Terence and myself, between
Yep.
from academic to business, business to applications. Um, we actually like to launch more courses to be able to really explain this. As you can see, I have a lot more slides to be able to explain
Yep.
uh,
And also
the
also
context.
put it into actionable, like into actionable outcomes too. Like how do you actually build it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And
Mm.
again, I am slightly more technical than Terence.
Mm.
I will also be designing certain real development costs by business people without a
Yep.
single coding. That
That
do,
is important.
what we discussed just now, how can I actually build one?
Yeah.
We are also thinking to actually launch such courses to actually allow you to build your first AI agent, and to allow you to actually imagine more. So that's it from me. I'll hand it to Terence to do the closing and to explain, from his perspective.
I think like a one last thing I want to add to the list is the following. I think one of the the biggest problem. It is less of a problem these days, but it is nevertheless still a problem, and we are still seeing it. And that is hallucinations with Gen AI, right? I think one of the key things about like build the fact is this. If we're looking at what we're doing with agentic AI is we are basically breaking up a series like a process into very small tasks, right? And so, like, in order to actually combat or overcome or even eliminate, hopefully the hallucination problems, like that basically is still haunting the Gen AI. I think like one thing that I would add to that list is the fact that, for those like industries such as financial services or or like a pharmaceutical or like a healthcare, right? You can actually build an agent whose job is just to basically check the fact, right? Check like the ground truth. That basically just pick like make sure that whatever is like being produced outcome wise or like input wise, you basically go through the like your own proprietary database to basically do all the fact checks. I think like what is like if you think about it, combining all of these things, right? It is going to be a very very powerful force. What is interesting then is therefore, right, if you were to ask me, going forward, it is not just about how good your technology is, or whether your like the staff within your company knows how to use Copilot. I think that is basically the start of using Gen AI as a like a within a business. I think if anything, companies or like especially SMEs, in my humble opinion, which of course is always underserved by AI, they need to actually start thinking about how to actually like pick up the skills and learn how to build their own agents. Every little helps. It's like basically like like the taking Tesco slogan, right? The fact is this, like in our lives, right? There are just so many tasks that I don't want to do, you don't want to do. If we can actually build an agents to actually take those over, it will be a very very welcoming thing, and which is something that I think like we want to actually do, with the courses, right? That we are planning on launching and designing and like putting it together. So this is all like all I have got,
Yeah,
like got to say. Yeah,
great. Let
any
me just
questions from
answer the few questions that
oh
we have
sure.
now.
Okay,
I
have we got it?
actually let me just combine the questions together in from
Okay.
my slide as well.
Okay.
So basically, um, what type of problems can AI agents solve? It will solve more and more complex problems. it's not just, if this then that. It can solve many different types of not only make a booking or talk to each other, customer service, but in some complex processes like, let's say, doing an underwriting in a bank, deciding the risks of an investment, finding fraud from detecting fraud from many different variables that is available. The problems that is solved will become more and more complex because of the business people's involvement. Like I say, building AI agents is really simple, but it also depends on what type of problems are we solving. If the problems is complex, we can actually, or you can actually solve it in a better way. And that goes to my second point, which is there will be more and more specialized agents that can form an interconnected systems to solve it in a more complex way. That is the future outlook of these AI agents, where it can actually connect to each other in a very simple way, because we make that connected. It's just a data workflow. But regardlessly, human and agents are going to still collaborate regardlessly. That's the only way to actually transform all these workflows in the enterprise. And lastly, all different types of tool discussion, tool creation and discovery will become a lot more automated. For example, I mean, today you have to spend a lot of investment and effort to actually build, let's say, an Uber. In the future, it will become an easier way to build an Uber. And because there will be all these tools that you can actually just drag and drop and to actually build it into just a process pipeline. So that's how because of the limited time we have already passed through the great timing. I'm just trying to combine all the questions together to just, answer it. If there's any other question, please feel free to ask. Maybe if you'd like to ask Terence or myself.
Or reach out to us, like on LinkedIn,
Exactly.
or right, and we'll be more than happy to actually continue this conversation.
Absolutely. Great. I think we have gone beyond our great time. We
Absolutely.
will definitely, this is just the first of our many series. Terence and I will launch our new book in the coming months. And together with the new book launch, we will also design more and more series as well. And we will definitely post it on our LinkedIn to announce, the second one, which may go into slightly more explanations of what are those systems, what are those what type of tools that you can actually use.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
Everyone.
Hey, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks very much, Danny.